The 2017 Silver Gavel Award for Documentaries goes to Do Not Resist Vanished Films. Do Not Resist is a riveting and disturbing documentary account of the lures and risk of militarized policing. It seeks to probe the present as well as the future of domestic law enforcement in the post-9/11 era of the war on terrorism, whether war is waged not just on foreign soil, but here at home. The documentary examines the increasing deployment of military equipment for the purposes of policing our neighborhoods. To tell their story, the filmmakers obtained remarkable access. Framing this story are striking street scenes of Ferguson, Missouri, following the death of Michael Brown. Do Not Resist juxtaposes these disturbing nighttime images of tear gas-shrouded protests in Ferguson in bright daylight scenes of assault vehicles rolling down quiet, small-town streets. This creates an unbelievable, powerful effect. The documentary touches on fundamental matters of law and order, privacy and public safety, and race and class. It challenges us to stop and to consider the consequences of militarized policing. Do Not Resist serves to remind us how a society polices itself always reflects what it values and what it fears. We begin by screening the documentary's trailer. Then filmmaker Craig Atkinson explains what prompted him to make Do Not Resist and what he hopes viewers take away from watching the documentary.
We are seeing a growing debate about so-called warrior cops, a term that I've heard, and the militarization of police. I think it's very important to remind our fellow citizens that we need a range of weapons and equipment to respond and protect our fellow citizens and protect ourselves. Threat! Threat!
We are at war, and you're the frontline troops in this war.
We are preparing for any type of situation. Of course, anything dealing with ISIS is a concern. We do a lot of training in the event that we had a situation like what they had in Missouri.
You must disperse immediately. We have the right to assemble peace. You are violating the state laws of curfew. To assemble peace, we have the right. That is our right. You are violating the state laws of curfew.
There's actually written descriptions for how the equipment should be used, and it says it's specifically not supposed to be used for riot suppression.
I know you for a long time, bro. A long time.
Y'all still killing us.
25 years I've been here. 25 years here, I never killed a man.
Get your man.
Folks, there ain't nobody in Mexico right now complaining about militarization of police. You understand? In the very near future, you will be vindicated.
It's clear.
There's got to be some drugs here.
We need to put the brakes on the fear, and we need to act rationally. Terrorism works because it makes people irrational, and it makes them destroy themselves.
My interest in creating a film on the militarization of police stemmed from the fact that my father was a police officer for 29 years, and he was actually a SWAT officer for 13 of those years. I was sitting in my apartment in Brooklyn right after the Boston Marathon bombing and saw the police response and realizing that it was far different than my father's era of SWAT. I was interested to know what had changed, and that's what prompted this film. When we look at the militarization of police, we're really talking about the flow of equipment and cash grants to domestic law enforcement. Not only is it the tools, but also the mentality of a military officer and how they may conduct themselves in a war zone has also started to trickle down. It was really important for us to put the camera in situations where we could let scenes unfold for themselves. Instead of a film where it's more expert testimony and talking heads, this is an opportunity for viewers to directly experience many of the headlines that we've seen since Ferguson. We really wanted to point viewers to what was coming down the line in policing. We started to film with technology providers who were returning back from Iraq and Afghanistan with incredible surveillance technology and approaching local law enforcement and selling it to them for very minimal cost. Previously, we fought wars with military hardware, and now we're fighting with surveillance technology, and that's what we're seeing trickle back home to our local law enforcement as well. Do Not Resist was truly an effort on the ground with Laura Hartrick. I shot while Laura produced, we directed it together, and we also edited the film together. Do Not Resist explores the present and the future of American law enforcement, from Ferguson, Missouri, to the militarization of police, to the impact of new technology changing the way that local police departments interact with their communities.
Accepting the Silver Gavel are Craig Atkinson, director, cinematographer, and co-editor, and Laura Hartrick, producer and co-editor.
Thank you so much. It's truly an honor to be up here with so many brilliant minds and to hear of the legacy of films and works that the ABA has honored in the past. I just think when Laura and I first started this project, it was actually a year prior to the events in Ferguson. And after the events in Ferguson actually took place, we thought for sure the news cycle would have changed. And by the time we actually were able to finish the film a year later, no one was going to care about the film. No one would give it the time of day. Not so much about we cared about the film, but it was more for the topic that was getting out. Sadly enough, here we are, and the film is more just as relevant, if not more, than the day we started. Very unfortunately so. But it's an honor to be in here. These types of awards really give films like this legs and additional exposure to people that really need to see it. One call to action that I might say if I'm in front of a room of lawyers is this whole mechanism where technology companies are approaching law enforcement and getting them to sign non-disclosure agreements to use their surveillance technology or other tools that are very, very powerful. Many of the tools can be used for great purpose to help us in our efforts against terrorism, but I still do believe that the citizens have a right to know, how the tools that are being implemented to, in hopes of protecting them, but surely the citizens should have the power to know these tools because, as we said, it greatly affects the way that police interact with their communities, and it takes us out of this model of a community policing system that we all kind of strive and hope for. So again, I thank you truly for this opportunity and the access to the network of the ABA in order to give the film into the hands of the people that can actually do something about it. So I really do thank you enough, and we have a bunch of people that we need to thank.
Thanks to the ABA, it's an incredible honor to be here. I also wanted to thank those that supported the film even before police militarization became a national conversation. So David Menschel and the Vital Projects Fund, Maggie Lear and the Francis Lear Foundation, and the Ford Foundation Just Films. And then it's really important to also thank those partners that came on board to help support the film and bring it out to a wider audience, including Annie Rooney and Rocco Films, PBS POV, Amazon Prime, CineReach, the Fledgling Fund, the Filmmakers Fund, and Picture Motion. Thank you so much.
Thank you.